Ladies and gentlemen, the disappointment is very real. I am sat out on a glorious sunny day. I am on an incredibly lush green pitch, and I brought with me a brand new pair of Lotto Maestro 100, which in hand, first impressions, look fantastic. But there's a problem. What's up guys, James here from BootWizard Boot Reviews, and yes, today we are looking at the Lotto Maestro 100 Force. This is the fourth iteration of the Lotto Maestro, a boot that in its previous iteration I absolutely lauded as one of the best boots around, mainly due to its touch and feel and its material that they used through the forefoot of the boot, which felt a little Hypervenom 1-esque. All fantastic news. This is the new pair, I'm out on pitch, I'm ready to test them, I can't do it. There's one pretty big problem with the boots from the off, which will mean I will be testing them at a later date, but they are in my hand, so I'm gonna run you down my first impressions, what the boot's like, and give you an overview so that if you wanna pick them up quick, you'll at least have an idea of what you should do. So we'll start with the problem. The reason that I can't get a proper playtest out of these, it's quite simply that they don't fit. This is a size UK 7.5, which is half a size smaller than what I would usually buy, and it's half a size smaller than what I got in the Lotto Maestro, the previous generation. And simply, I felt that maybe that previous generation, when I tried them on again, I could have gone down a little bit. So I thought, you know what, I'll risk it, I'll go down. The worst thing that could possibly happen is they're a tiny bit too small. I'd probably prefer that and stretch them out rather than the boot being too big. I got the 7.5 and these are just simply too big. Like, I'm gonna have to send these back, buy a new pair, and I'm probably gonna order a full size down. So if you follow the channel regularly, you know usually I'll be wearing a US 8.5, something like that. So to go all the way down to what in Lotto at least would be a US 7.5 is quite extreme. But I'm gonna do it because in hand and first impressions, I'm very impressed. These seem fantastic. So with the testing I can do with a pair of boots that's a bit big, the touch on the ball here is fantastic. This upper is so unbelievably soft. They've taken the best part about the Maestro 3, sorry, the previous generation. They have improved it and they've given you more of it. What they've done here is they've run it all the way up the midfoot of the boot and they've made it softer. Now this isn't going to be the most barefoot touch on the ball ever, but that's not what this is supposed to be. The Maestro is Lotto's control boot, and this feels like a proper control boot. What you've got here is a super supple material with an internal liner and a bit of padding that runs in between the two, and it just, I think I said this about the previous gen, it's just classy. It feels like a very classy, very soft, nice and elegant touch on the ball, and I can't get over how unbelievably soft this is. It's absolutely fantastic. So I've never really shied away from having a lot of tech, naming it and throwing it all on the boot, and it's kind of the same here. This is the Control 3D upper, and then this is a knit portion of that. So that's a Control 3D knit portion of the upper, which runs down the middle of the boot and up into this collar section here, which I think again does a really, really good job. It looks sleek, it gives you a knit portion that stretches out enough to make this comfortable and give you a truly seamless feeling one-piece upper. On top of that, you've got a cage upper. So you can see here that this is a super thin material that's been put over the top. It's like a plastic coating, but it's a little bit thicker and it's designed to give structure. It also runs a little bit through the medial side of the boot, but does far less over here. Now, frequently the problem with having these super soft uppers is that your lockdown and responsiveness suffers a lot. Now, unfortunately, with these boots being that little bit too big, it's not something that I can test to the extent that I would really want it to. However, I do think that this works pretty well. The lockdown is good because of the way the boot is built. It's got a nice deep lacing system, and pulling those laces tight does work. However, most of the shape and the wrap around your foot you are going to get from the basic structure of the boot, because it is quite narrow through the lacing already. There's not that much to pull tight. But without question, that transition into that full knit round the side with that support control fit element is really good, and it does help the boot as a whole in terms of lockdown, well, in terms of responsiveness, as far as I can tell. So big thumbs up. The upper construction here is fantastic. The touch on the ball is classy and elegant, and I would say there is enough lockdown and responsiveness in this boot for a boot of this type. It's not going to be mercurial locked in, mercurial responsive, but I'm buying a control boot. I'm not really expecting that. And all of these other elements of the softness of the touch, the elegance of the touch, and the general kind of flexibility of the boot is a trade-off I am more than willing to make. Other elements that they have kept from that previous gen are the texturing, that honeycomb-like pattern that runs through the forefoot. It stops it from being too slick. I don't think it's quite as grippy as the previous gen, but there's definitely enough of a feeling there that I don't think this ball's gonna slide off at any moment. So less grippy, but I'm not criticizing at all. And you get the off-center lacing system. It's only slightly off-center, but for those of you that like a feeling of a bigger, cleaner striking surface, it's right there for you. Let's have a chat about value for money. These retail for £170, which is more expensive than the previous generation by a reasonable amount. However, it's still a lot cheaper than most other boots that you can go and pick up that are top end. But we are now competing with those Adidas 0.1 models. The X Ghosted 0.1, that brand new boot, is £180. Lotto are really pushing the boundaries here. However, there's two ways of looking at this. From a pure quality point of view, I would say that this is the best quality boot that Lotto have made in the last, I say 10 years. It is a fantastic upper, the materials are high quality, it's a huge improvement over the previous gen that I already liked, and they've kept all of those really positive elements. I have a lot of good things to say about this boot, and considering the pricing structure, is it worth £170? Yeah, like if you look at it and you compare it to those 0.1 Adidas models, is this in their league? I absolutely think it is. Now, I know I'm not a huge fan of it, so it's probably an unfair comparison, but prefer it to the Predator. But what we also have to consider is Lotto getting people out to buy these, and in order to do that they have to be competitively priced, and is £10 less than an Adidas 0.1 model going to get people to pick something up with a Lotto logo instead of 3 stripes? Now, I would really hope that it does, and I'm always pushing for people to try things outside of Adidas, Nike, Puma, and if you're gonna try a boot, you should absolutely give something like this a go, purely based on the quality. But I have a fear that Lotto are going to struggle to shift enough units of this at full price when compared to those 0.1 level Adidas boots, even what Puma are charging for their boots. It's a tough sell just because of the brand logo and nothing to do with the quality of the boot. I mentioned the sizing before and the fact that I think I'm going to end up going a full size down in these boots. So at best, or at worst I suppose, go half a size down if you do want to pick these up. One thing I do really like about the new shape of the boot is the fact that it is that little bit wider through the toe box, and the whole thing seems to be sculpted a little bit more to the shape of your foot. I found the previous gen maybe got a little bit low and a little bit tight right down the end of the toe box here. There doesn't seem to be that issue with these boots. Again, of course, I do have to go down that size to get the full impression, but there's clearly a more well-rounded, more structured idea around the shape of your foot here, and I really like that. One thing Lotto have done here that I really appreciate is take a big focus on comfort. Not enough boots take into account the comfort of the boot. They're looking for all that performance, which I totally get, but you've got to have comfort in your boots. And one of the ways that they've done this is with this Adapto Tech, which is a stretched knit material that runs around the back of the boot. Now, very frequently, we don't necessarily see a softer knit in the back of the boot because you want more structure in there. Now, the idea being that this stretchy knit will stretch and mold around your heel and give you a comfortable custom fit in the heel. Again, not something we get very often because you get these rigid internal or external plastic heel counters that basically, if your heel doesn't fit, then it's uncomfortable. Now, there's a plus side and a downside to this. The first one is, even with these being too big, I can tell it's very, very comfortable. The downside being that there is potentially not enough structure here, and that's gonna affect your lockdown feeling in the heel. Again, however, I do have to say that even with these being too big, I feel reasonably well locked in, but the heel counter is very shallow. I'm not quite sure how they've achieved this, or maybe my heel just fits into the padded element in the back quite nicely, but it's an interesting idea. It's built around comfort, and I think that's something that a lot of people will appreciate. And then the internal liner, again, very comfortable, a really great synthetic suede. This is a huge upgrade from the previous gen, and I absolutely love it. It runs all the way through the boot, and it feels fantastic. It feels super premium, and it feels super soft and super comfortable. There's no complaints about the comfort of this boot. Now, I really liked the previous generation of Maestro. I said a lot of nice things about it, but one thing I did criticize was the sole plate. I said that the studs themselves were not low enough profile to get good traction, and the sole plate, while being decent, was nothing more than average, really. Here, they have done all they can to improve that and keep it in line with the general feel of the boot as a whole. Now, I would have liked to have used this more. However, sizing, but what Lotto have done here is they've given you this BFC sole plate. I've forgotten what that means, hold on. It means biomechanical foot control, and what you really need to know about that is the fact that it is a dual density P-Bax outsole. So you get the outsole, and then you have this BFC section that runs through and provides all the stiffening and strengthening so that the boot is rigid in the right areas and allows it to be more responsive. And I think this was a really good call, because from trying to stretch and bend this boot, it is flexible and you get a lot of movement through the boot as a whole, but without this BFC system, I think it would be a huge problem. This does just enough to stiffen the boot up, make it rigid enough so that it's not overly flexible, while still giving you a really nice flexible range of motion in the boot as a whole, which again, it's a control boot. You're probably going to want multi-directional flexible movement as opposed to something that's stiff, designed for straight line speed. Along with the BFC, you get the PFX. So the PFX is the Punterflex technology, which Lotto have had for years and years and years and years and years. It's basically a flex groove that goes in the boot and allows the boot to flex further up at the point that you want it to. Gives you almost a toe-off sensation. It's not new tech. It's not anything that nobody else is doing, but I appreciate that it's there, especially considering some boots I've tried recently don't have something like this and have weird all over flex or a flex at an odd point. This really helps the push off in the right area. Now, It's not particularly snappy or responsive in the forefoot of the boot, which I'm not disappointed about because of the style of boot, but I always like something that's more snappy and more responsive, and you don't really get that here. So if that's what you're looking for, then this probably isn't going to be the boot for you. And the studs, hallelujah, Skiller FC. If you don't follow him on Instagram, you should. He is going to be delighted. I believe this is a Skiller approved sole plate. What we've got is we've got conical studs, which have extra elements that have poked out of them basically to give you better traction in the ground. It's like 3 little points on every conical stud. They're not super low profile, but they're not so bad. And then you get bladed studs, 2 in the heel, 2 in the midfoot, and a bladed support stud, which are going to add just enough aggressiveness to make this work. So more aggressive conical studs, some aggressive bladed studs with a flexible sole plate. This is really nicely balanced. There's also 2 little toe pick studs right on the end. I'm not imagining that they're going to do a great deal, to be honest, but this is nice. It's a really good, well thought out upgrade. The design is excellent. I just really want to play in them a lot, and I can only do so much. So that is my first impressions review of the Lotto Maestro 100 version 4, and I wish so badly that these fit properly and I could wear them more. I could really give these a real high quality playtest, maybe pick out any more faults or find anything else that I really like. But having worn these the best I can in the size that they are, I really like them. And stay tuned to the channel because get subscribed. I'm gonna have a full playtest review of these on the channel because I'm really excited about them. Remember to hit that like button and comment down below what you think of these. Would you pick them up at this price point? Are you waiting to go on sale? Would you try a Lotto boot? And if the answer's no, you need to change your mind. That's all from BootWizard here today. Hope you've enjoyed it. Have a good one. We'll see you soon.